Every secret internet rule from the 2000s we all followed. 1. The AIM away message status hierarchy. You thought your away message was a polite notification. It was actually a manually compiled social credit system that dictated your entire middle school hierarchy before algorithms stole our jobs. AOL's idle timer didn't flip you to away until exactly 15 minutes of inactivity. So you rigged a heavy biology textbook on your spacebar at 3:14 p.m. to simulate engagement. You memorized the exact hex codes for neon green courier new, pasted a 14-line ASCII art skull, and genuinely believed your BRB getting a sandwich status would trigger a dopamine rush in 300 teenagers staring at curved CRT monitors. The twist? Nobody was actually messaging you. We were all just playing a multiplayer game of pretending we were popular enough to be missed. But faking your social availability was child's play compared to the physical infrastructure that literally held your digital life hostage. 2. The dial-up line monopoly rule. Broadband wasn't a luxury in 2001. It was a Cold War fought over a single copper telephone line serving one Pentium 3 desktop, one answering machine, and one deeply resentful parent. You memorized the exact 26-second V.90 handshake screech, that metallic modem symphony ending in a sharp carrier tone, because it was the only audio confirmation you weren't about to lose 3 hours of a Neopets pet search. If someone picked up the kitchen extension to call the dentist, the connection dropped instantly, corrupting your save file and proving your family valued oral health over digital hoarding. The unwritten rule was absolute. You duct taped the receiver to the wall jack and treated the busy signal like a declaration of war. We didn't have firewalls. We had aggressive territorial disputes over household wiring. But surviving the phone jack didn't prepare you for the legal warfare we waged over stolen code. 3. The view source copyright panic. Early HTML was legally public domain under open source protocols. We treated it like Fort Knox, guarded exclusively by notepad.exe. You typed, "Copyright 2003, do not steal my table borders or I will report you to the FBI," in 18-point impact font, genuinely believing the Department of Justice cared about your blinking marquee gif of a dancing hot dog. You'd right-click Arrival's GeoCities page, hit View Source, and feel your pulse spike when you spotted your exact 42-line JavaScript snowfall script copied without attribution. The community didn't file DMCA takedown requests. We just embedded a 3-kilobyte invisible pixel tracker to their site to log their visitor count and publicly shame them in the guestbook. Digital property law was enforced through petty surveillance. But stealing layout code was a misdemeanor compared to the mandatory social ledger we were forced to maintain. 4. The Blogroll Reciprocity Blood Pact. Modern algorithms push your content automatically. Back then, your web presence clinically died unless you manually mirrored the exact same 6 links back to whoever linked you first. You spent 4 hours in 2005 formatting a LiveJournal sidebar, pasting 12-digit URLs into a scrolling marquee, praying their AngelFire server in Ohio didn't 404 during peak dial-up traffic. If they removed your link without warning, your Technorati authority rank dropped by 15 points overnight, plunging your amateur poetry blog into digital obscurity. The unwritten mandate demanded you screenshot their broken link, post it to your own Blogroll under Enemies, and initiate a mutual link destruction campaign across 3 separate forum threads. We treated hyperlinks like hostage negotiations. But link retaliation was purely cosmetic compared to the auditory warfare that actually bypassed hardware mute settings. 5. The MSN Messenger Nudge Etiquette Treaty. The nudge launched in January 2004 as a friendly tap. Within 6 months, it became a legally unregulated audio assault weapon disguised as a feature. One click triggered a window shake and blasted ding-dong.wave at maximum system volume, deliberately bypassing Windows Direct Sound filters because Microsoft hard-coded it to override meet settings. You'd be in third period history class, hearing that exact metallic chime through your open ThinkPad and feel your stomach drop because your friend just publicly announced you were ignoring them at 2:11 p.m. The community drafted the exact 7-minute rule. You only nudged if the chat had stalled for precisely 420 seconds. Violators got blocked, screenshot shamed, or added to a shared Excel blacklist. We treated auditory consent like international airspace, but digital boundary enforcement was trivial compared to the cryptographic paranoia required for file trading. 6. The flash signature compression quota. You thought signing guest books was polite. It was mandatory bandwidth warfare using Macromedia Flash Player 6. By 2004, Zanga and Neopets enforced strict 500 kilobyte monthly caps. So you manually stripped every JPEG down to exactly 12 kilobytes using Paint's resize and skew function. You'd paste a 14-line BB code signature into the text box, hit preview, and endure the agonizing 3-second server compile, praying your auto-playing MIDI track didn't crash the forum's shared PHP processor. The unwritten law demanded you never upload a signature exceeding 100 pixels in height, because anything taller got flagged as a layout exploit and auto-truncated by the site moderator. Digital vanity required strict pixel rationing, but file compression was just the entry fee for the next mandatory survival protocol. If your brain is already short-circuiting from how casually we weaponized 12 kilobyte JPEGs, the full archival routing map and bandwidth allocation charts are linked below. Let's keep going. 7. The LimeWire hash check quarantine. Napster's 2001 shutdown didn't kill piracy. It birthed LimeWire, and a generation of kids who treated random MP3 downloads like unexploded ordnance. Every .exe file renamed to lincolnpark_num.mp3.exe carried exactly a 22% chance of wiping your System32 registry on double-click. You memorized the exact file size of a standard 128 kilobits per second RIP, 3.87 megabytes. And if the download showed 3.86 or 3.88, you immediately quarantined it in a folder labeled do_not_open. The unwritten protocol demanded you cross-reference MD5 checksums on dedicated P2P forums before touching anything larger than 50 megabytes. One wrong click could brick a motherboard in 11 seconds flat. We treated unknown extensions like biological hazards, but digital quarantine protocols were just training wheels for the economic warfare we waged over virtual economies. 8. The Webkinz alt-account wealth isolation. You assumed virtual pet economies were harmless. They actually enforced rigid wealth caps that birthed an entire black market of browser cache manipulation. GAN Studio's 2007 algorithm capped daily Kinz cache earnings at exactly 100 per account. So we created 3 alternate profiles across different Firefox installations to bypass the inflation lock. You memorized the exact keystroke sequence, clearing cookies, hard refreshing the login portal, transferring the stash, then deleting the alt to avoid triggering their IP matching anti-bot heuristic. Violating the isolation protocol by logging 2 accounts within 24 hours triggered a 14-day hardware suspension for economic exploitation. We treated pixelated hamster cache like offshore Swiss banking, but virtual hoarding was just a sandbox for the real social engineering required to maintain platform hierarchies. 9. The Digg V4 API Strike Silence Pact. When Digg's 2008 algorithm buried indie submissions in favor of corporate PR, the community didn't complain to mods. Over 400,000 users coordinated a silent exodus by simultaneously flagging every promoted article and leaving the top 500 posts completely unvoted. You stared at your dashboard at 3:42 a.m. Pacific, watching the popular tab stagnate at 0 new submissions for exactly 6 consecutive hours because thousands of accounts had collectively disabled their voting scripts. The unwritten rule forbade any strike discussion on Digg's own message boards, forcing coordination through encrypted channels on Freenode IRC. Platform democracy relied entirely on strategic apathy, but forum mutiny was just a warm-up for the brutal identity verification demanded when the platform finally opened the floodgates. 10. The early Facebook real name Purge. We romanticize 2009 Facebook as a simpler time. It actually operated like a digital census bureau that aggressively policed anyone daring to use a middle initial or nickname. When the platform expanded beyond universities in 2006, early adopters mass-reported profiles with anime avatars or band logos as impersonation, triggering automated review queues. You felt the exact panic of a verification flag demanding a scanned copy of your state ID, faxed or mailed to a Palo Alto PO box within 72 hours or face permanent deletion. Roughly 12% of early accounts got shadow banned for failing the real name purity test. We treated digital anonymity like a moral failing, but identity policing was purely administrative compared to the feudal authority structures governing our actual communication channels. 11. The IRC/Kick Obedience chain. Before Discord's clean UI, internet governance ran on raw text commands and absolute feudal loyalty. In 2003, every major channel operated on MIRC clients, where operators held unilateral ban power via exact syntax, enforced without warning or trial. You learned to never type a full sentence without monitoring the status bar for that sudden red text announcing your exile from #gaming. The unwritten law mandated immediate client disconnection the moment you received a private / notice from an op, because arguing publicly triggered an IP range ban that kicked your entire dorm network offline. We treated text-based moderators like physical security guards with actual taser privileges. But digital banishment was temporary compared to the psychological toll of the final, most absolute rule of our online adolescence. 12. The log off before sleep hard disconnect. The internet wasn't an ambient state of being. It was a physical destination you manually entered and exited every single night. Before 2008, you clicked the disconnect button at 11:47 p.m. to release the modem's hold on the phone line and force a DHCP lease renewal. You felt the exact heavy plastic clack of the power switch on your beige tower, watched the CRT phosphors collapse into a single fading white dot, and listened to the cooling fans spin down into dead silence. The unwritten mandate was absolute. You never left a message board session logged in overnight, because an idle terminal left your IP exposed to subnet port scanners at exactly 3:15 a.m. We didn't just browse the web, we survived it by knowing exactly when to physically unplug. And honestly, we miss the silence.